Good afternoon and warm greetings to everyone. The warmth in the greeting comes not only from my heart but also from the climate which has chosen to make this November afternoon so warm and a bit rainy for the early part of winter. I wish to thank the organizers for affording me this opportunity to participate and share my views, and the audience by indulging me in lending their ears, especially when the drowsiness creeps in during the post lunch session. So it'll be nice if the audience participate in a healthy interaction after this session. I wish to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Purushottam Reddy Garu, a renowned environmentalist, and thank him. I wish to thank Dr. Prabhakar Reddy Garu. In this slide, I'm just trying to reiterate what has been already discussed in the previous sessions about rapid global warming, particularly in the past decade. This picture depicts the drastic change in surface temperature, which is adversely affecting the environment. According to the World Meteorological Organization, the greenhouse gas emissions and increased heat has propelled repercussions for future generations. As per IPCC, the climate change can cause severe damage to the livelihood of people and other forms of life. We all know that some of the principal reasons for these adverse climatic conditions are deforestation, mining, industrialization, plastic usage, electronic usage, urbanization, automobiles, use of fossil fuels, to name a few. From 1972 onwards, United Nations has been discussing on preservation and enhancement of the environment, but with no tangible results. This slide shows the numerous summits conducted by the United Nations to bring out this point. In the Indian context, where do we stand? The GDP has moved from 6.5 lakh crores in 1972 to 134 lakh crores in 2021. For the sake of convenience, we are using the gross domestic product as the metric for comparison in this visual. We could have well used the stock market indices or any other financial parameter. The fact remains that only financial parameters are ever compared. We do not have formalized means to attribute value to non-financial considerations, regretfully so. What are the major contributors to economic activity? This pie diagram shows how the cookie crumbles. Evidently, almost 70% of the activities contribute financially and resultantly to the exploitation of resources, leading to adverse climate change. Of the balance 30% also, a good percentage still adversely affects the natural resources. For example, burning of agricultural stubble still results in air pollution at Delhi year on year. Let us examine what factors on the supply of products and services impact our hypothesis. It is the pursuit of money which is driving economies and people to abuse the environment. Corporates spend time and energy on pushing their products into the market, make more profits, increase the share prices without considering whether the product and the whole process of making it available in the market is having an adverse impact on the people and environment. Why? As corporates or as individuals, we are busy accumulating money in the fond hope that it will enable us purchase comforts without thinking and realizing that in the process of accumulation of means of exchange, we have already contributed to the depletion of resources. So essentially, it's like taking an overdraft on future earnings, and we have already eaten away our future. In other terms, money has value only when something can be purchased with it. If we are busy saving money and there is nothing left to purchase, then there is no value to the pile of money that was accumulated. So, what do we do about it? Here are my suggestions on attempting to control the abuse of environment and natural resources on the supply side. Let there be an assignment of a social or ecological value in every financial statement, rendering it possible to compute social and ecological valuation alongside traditional commercial enterprise valuation to redefine the perspective of value itself. And also formulate a rating mechanism for assigning rating based on non-commercial parameters similar to financial rating agencies that are in vogue today like CRISIL, ICRA, etc., and make implementation mandatory. So for instance, entity may be highly rated in terms of profits, but low rated in terms of resource consumption. So social value is like a brand value which will help recover the cost of transforming to eco-friendly resources. I presume this is what Professor Purushottam Reddy Garu also has been explaining through his example of the American company during his speech today. So should investors and performance evaluators, as also lenders, start evaluating each such opportunity by including such parameters besides financial yardsticks and give weightage to the same, then enterprises will be forced to include them as a part of their operational and growth plans. Therefore, by following this process, enterprise valuations, investor attitudes, lender attitudes, and resultantly entrepreneur attitudes can be molded to positively change the financial landscape, which will definitely work for the betterment of the environment. I'm trying to explain the concept, whatever we've gone through the numbers here. Let's take the example of an entity whose sales are, say, 100 rupees, cost of sales is 80 rupees, and profit is 20 rupees. So the commercial valuation of the entity is 4 times the profit, which comes to 80 rupees. So now let us do a social assessment to the entity and give a value based on social impact which the entity is creating. So in scenario 1, considering the entity is into resulting into greenhouse gas emissions or deforestation or waste disposal, etc., the entity's value is minus 50 rupees. So the enterprise value, considering commercial and social parameters, will now be 30. And the rating of this company would be B minus. Now, let's just go a little ahead before we come to scenario 2 and understand a change. So here, I'm trying to say that this company is now for a rating or for becoming eco-friendly, it is transforming its processes into eco-friendly processes. Like the raw materials would be sourced from eco-friendly vendors or manufacturers. And the whole manufacturing process would use wherever possible clean energy and other means of ecological, eco-friendly procurement. Then power would be through renewable energy. Packaging would be through eco-friendly packing or from recycled material instead of plastic, etc. And the last mile delivery expenditure would be through eco-friendly vehicles. So the logistics is also using eco-friendly resources. Now, for this transformation, the cost of this entity has increased to 90 rupees. Now going back to our scenario 2. So this resulted in an increase of cost from 80 rupees to 90 rupees. And so it has resulted in profit coming down by 50% to 10 rupees. And the commercial value, which is 4 times the profit, is also down by 40 rupees. However, due to transforming to eco-friendly processes, the entity is able to have a social value of 60 rupees due to positive social impact. Hence, the overall valuation is increased to 100 rupees from 30 rupees in the previous scenario, and the rating of this entity is now AA+. So, should the investors and bankers give such weightage to eco-friendly companies, then it would serve as an incentive and give the much needed impetus for companies to embrace this change wholeheartedly. To evaluate an example of how such weightage could be given to eco-friendly activity, currently CSR is mandated by Government of India based on the percentage of revenue or profit. Most companies would do it at a bare minimum level and sometimes end up routing other expenditure as CSR activity. Should there be a proper social audit or assessment, as also weightage given for any activity that is eco-friendly to be made as a part of CSR, we could end up achieving our climate change goals faster by involving corporate India in the activity. This process will part finance the climate change. The last two columns in the slide are an indicative parameters of rating the company based on not just revenue numbers, but also social impact valuation. So here when we are mentioning top 10 revenue generating companies, now the top, that's a rating is based only on the revenue generation. Now, if we understand the social impact of how this revenue has been generated, that is how much of resources have been used to generate so much revenue, if an impact assessment is made and a social valuation is given, maybe this top rating will be relooked into. So here are a list of suggested policy initiatives. Policies should be brought out for making social and ecological valuation a compulsory compliance for all government and non-governmental entities. A periodic social audit is to be implemented. Social audit is a way of measuring, understanding, reporting, and ultimately improving an organization's social and ethical performance. So this is from our technical guide of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. The environmental activists and organizations are best equipped to audit and assess the social impact. However, some means of accreditation and understanding of the requirements would be necessary to make this activity effective. Also, professional ethics for such organizations should be put in place. Incentives like reduction in income tax, GST, and other taxes or cess to be given for entities with high social valuation or rating. Commercial banks can put a premium on socially adverse entities and give a discount of interest for eco-friendly entities. This will encourage investors and also consumers to invest in those entities which have commercial as well as social and ecological growth. This leads to overall development, which includes protection of nature. Let us examine how the demand side operates. Sorry about the pause. Yes, so let us examine how the demand side operates. A mechanism for awareness to the consumer on the ecological impact of products or services is to be brought out. So let the products display the usage of conventional resources along with other product information on the packaging, which will let the user make an informed choice on the extent of abuse the product has had on the planet. Also, the website of entities to display very evidently the extent of natural resources used for their products and services. So the picture in this slide depicts an example of how information on the packaging for customer awareness can be made. So it could be, just giving an example, that it could be the number of trees, the amount of water used, area of soil depletion, the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that has taken place in the atmosphere, which the product has resulted into. The consumers can make a positive impact by modifying their lifestyle and incorporating certain simple but effective measures in their buying pattern. Currently, purchase is based on feel-good factor, which ought to be shifted to feel healthy or pro-nature factor. I have given some examples, like say, would be like buying cold pressed oil vis-a-vis the refined oil from a factory. So like this, it's a list, suggestive list, which could be where the purchase can be shifted from a feel good to a feel healthy or a pro nature factor. And I just want to know if any of the audience would be able to share a few inputs on the purchases based on feel good factor. I would like be happy to see the list. And a shift from being rich to being happy. You know, like how Bhutan has a gross happiness index as a parameter for development. When focus shifts from accumulating means of exchange to safeguarding resources, the economies automatically work towards enhancement of environment without the need for separate financial resources. This would be the ultimate objective of any climate finance ecosystem. It is hoped that by incorporating various measures articulated and others which my eminent co-panelists have contributed, we could have a 360-degree approach to development, including economic, ethical, social, and commercial aspects. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for your very interesting presentation.